On a busy morning at the office, while organizing my daily schedule, I received an unexpected message from a former residency colleague. Hannah had specialized in traditional Chinese medicine after our urology training and now worked at a prestigious research center in Shanghai. The content of the message instantly intrigued me. "I need to share something extraordinary with you, a discovery that could revolutionize the treatment of hypertension." As a doctor for 15 years, I had always maintained a rigorous scientific approach, basing my conduct on solid evidence and established protocols. However, throughout my clinical practice, I observed that many patients did not respond adequately to conventional hypertension treatments, even following all recommendations strictly. This reality had always troubled me, especially when seeing people close to me facing the same difficulties. Hannah scheduled a video call for that same evening, and I confess I could barely concentrate on the day's appointments, anxious to learn more about her discovery. When we finally connected, her expression conveyed a mixture of enthusiasm and seriousness that I had rarely seen on her face. "During research in the Ming Dynasty Imperial Archives," she began, "we found detailed records of a formula used exclusively by the royal family to maintain controlled blood pressure. The most impressive thing is that the described ingredients have scientifically proven properties to benefit the cardiovascular system." As Hannah shared the details of her research, I realized I was witnessing something truly special. The formula combined natural elements known for their medicinal properties, garlic, ginger, cinnamon, lemon, and honey, in specific proportions, and with a particular preparation method that enhanced their effects. "The most fascinating thing," Hannah continued, "is that we conducted a pilot study with 100 volunteers, all with hypertension resistant to conventional treatment. The results were surprising. 82% of participants showed significant blood pressure reduction after 30 days of use, without relevant side effects." As a researcher and physician, I had always been skeptical of miracle formulas, but the data presented by Hannah was solid and methodologically correct. Study participants were monitored daily with regular pressure measurements and complete laboratory tests before and after treatment. The conversation with Hannah extended for hours, as we discussed the implications of this discovery. As a specialist in men's health, I immediately thought of my patients who faced erectile problems related to hypertension, an extremely common condition that significantly affects quality of life. In the days that followed, I immersed myself in extensive research about each component of the formula. Garlic, for example, contains allicin, a compound that helps relax blood vessels and reduce blood pressure. Ginger has potent anti-inflammatory properties, while cinnamon helps regulate blood sugar levels and improve circulation. The simplicity of the ingredients contrasted with the complexity of their effects on the body. It was a powerful reminder that sometimes the most effective answers to complex problems can be hidden in seemingly simple solutions, developed through generations of observation and experience. I decided to initiate my own research project, adapting Hannah's protocol to the American reality. My goal was not only to validate her results, but also to understand how this approach could be integrated into conventional hypertension treatment, especially in patients with urological complications. The first challenge was selecting suitable patients for the pilot study at my clinic. I established rigorous criteria. All should have diagnosed hypertension for at least 5 years, be in regular treatment with conventional medications, and have difficulty maintaining blood pressure within ideal values, even with multiple medications. Among those selected was Mr. Robert, a 65-year-old university professor who had been fighting hypertension for a decade. Despite following a strict diet and regularly practicing physical activity, his pressure remained elevated, often reaching 160-100 mmHg. Additionally, he faced significant side effects from medications, including erectile problems that affected his conjugal life. "Doctor, I've tried everything," he said during our first consultation for the project. "I'm willing to try this new approach, but I confess I'm skeptical." His hesitation was understandable. After all, how could an ancient recipe surpass decades of pharmaceutical development? I explained in detail the protocol we would follow. The daily preparation of the infusion should be done in the morning, on an empty stomach, following specific proportions of ingredients. The garlic should be peeled and lightly crushed to release allicin. The ginger, cut into thin slices to maximize the extraction of its active compounds. The cinnamon, used in stick form and not powder, to preserve its properties. The secret isn't just in the ingredients, I explained, but in how they interact with each other and are absorbed by the body. The water, for example, shouldn't be boiling, but at a specific temperature that allowed for proper extraction of the active principles without destroying them. In the first weeks, I maintained close contact with all study participants, adjusting the protocol as needed and carefully monitoring their vital signs. We established a WhatsApp group where they shared their experiences and doubts, creating a mutual support network that proved fundamental for adherence to the treatment. Mr. Robert was one of the first to report changes. After 2 weeks, I began to notice a difference in my energy levels, he shared during a follow-up consultation. My pressure started to stabilize, and the side effects of the medications seemed to have decreased. His words were confirmed by the numbers. His pressure had reduced to 138/88 mmHg, the best result in years. Even more impressive, we were able to gradually reduce the dosage of 2 of his antihypertensive medications under strict supervision. Mr. Roberts' case wasn't isolated. As weeks passed, other participants began to show significant improvements. A 58-year-old patient, who suffered from frequent headaches due to high blood pressure, reported a significant reduction in episodes. Another participant, a 70-year-old businessman, noticed a significant improvement in physical and mental disposition. I kept Hannah updated on our progress, and our conversations became true knowledge exchange sessions. She shared important observations from her ongoing study in China, while I reported on the adaptations I was making for the American reality. The most interesting thing, I commented to Hannah during one of our conversations, is how this approach is transforming patients' relationships with their health. They're not just taking medication, they're actively participating in their healing process. Indeed, I observed that the daily ritual of preparing the infusion was creating a moment of awareness about health and well-being. Many patients began to make other positive changes in their lives, such as improving their diet and starting meditation practices or light morning exercises. After 2 months of the pilot study, it was time to analyze in detail the collected data. I organized a virtual meeting with my research team and Hannah to discuss preliminary results and share important discoveries about the mechanism of action of the ancient formula. The differential of this preparation, Hannah explained, projecting detailed graphs in our video call, lies in the synergy between the components. It's not just a sum of ingredients, but a complex interaction that enhances the individual benefits of each element. Through advanced laboratory analyses, we identified that the timing of preparation was crucial. The water at a specific temperature, 176 degrees Fahrenheit, created the ideal environment for extracting bioactive compounds without degrading them. Garlic, when lightly crushed, released enzymes that transformed its sulfur compounds into active allicin, responsible for much of the beneficial effects. During our observations, we noticed an interesting pattern. Patients who took the infusion regularly in the morning, on an empty stomach, showed superior results to those who consumed it at other times. Dr. Martha, a cardiologist collaborating with our research, suggested this could be related to the circadian rhythm and naturally higher cortisol levels in the morning. The bioactive compounds of the formula seem to work in harmony with the body's natural cycles, she explained during one of our meetings. Ginger and cinnamon, for example, have properties that help regulate morning blood sugar, contributing to better blood pressure control throughout the day. One of the most surprising aspects was the discovery of how honey enhanced the absorption of other components. Microscopic analyses revealed that honey molecules created a kind of transport matrix, facilitating the penetration of active compounds through cell membranes of the digestive system. During this period, I continued closely monitoring the progress of study participants. Mrs. Emily, a 62-year-old architect, shared her experience during a follow-up consultation. Besides the improvement in pressure, I noticed that my energy levels increased significantly. I went back to doing water aerobics 3 times a week, something I had abandoned for fear of feeling sick during exercises. Mrs. Emily's report perfectly illustrated a phenomenon we were observing. The benefits of the formula went beyond blood pressure control. Many participants reported improved sleep, reduced anxiety, and increased vitality. In partnership with the University Hospital's Clinical Analysis Laboratory, we conducted a series of tests to better understand these systemic effects. The results showed a significant reduction in inflammatory markers and an improvement in endothelial function, the layer of cells that lines blood vessels. "It's as if we're witnessing a vascular renewal," commented Dr. Paul, a preventive medicine specialist who joined our team. "The blood vessels are regaining their natural elasticity, something we usually lose with aging." The most rewarding aspect of the research was seeing how ancient Chinese knowledge was confirmed through modern science. Each ingredient in the formula, carefully selected centuries ago, demonstrated having a specific and scientifically verifiable function in the body. On a particularly productive afternoon, we organized all the data into a large visual panel. The statistics were impressive. 85% of participants showed significant blood pressure reduction, 70% reported improved sleep quality, and 60% were able to reduce their conventional medication dosage under medical supervision. "We're facing something revolutionary," Hannah said during our last video call of the month. "But the most important thing is how we can use this knowledge to benefit more people." Her observation touched on a crucial point: how to make this discovery accessible to everyone who needed it, while maintaining the quality and effectiveness of the treatment. With the advancement of our research, we decided to expand the program to include more participants, this time focusing on different patient profiles. Among them was Mr. John, a 68-year-old farmer who lived in a small town in the Midwest. His story was particularly touching. After years of working in the fields, he developed severe hypertension and had difficulty maintaining regular medical follow-ups due to the distance from health centers. We adapted the protocol to his reality, ensuring that he could grow some of the ingredients in his own backyard. Ginger and garlic, in particular, grew abundantly in his garden. "It's gratifying to see that I can produce part of my own medicine," he shared during a video call consultation. To ensure the accuracy of the treatment, we developed a simple ingredient measurement kit with specially marked measuring spoons and clear visual instructions. This standardization was fundamental to maintaining consistency in results, regardless of where or by whom the formula was prepared. Dr. Betty, a nutritionist who joined the project, assisted in creating a complimentary food guide. "The formula works even better when combined with proper nutrition," she explained during our meetings with patients. "It's not about following a restrictive diet, but understanding how certain foods can be our allies in controlling blood pressure." One of the most rewarding moments was when we organized a face-to-face meeting with all study participants. Seeing those people sharing their transformation stories was deeply moving. Mrs. Ann, a retired 71-year-old teacher, stood up to tell her experience. "Before starting this treatment, I lived in fear. Fear of leaving home, fear of exercising, fear of the future. Today, my blood pressure is controlled. I went back to water aerobics, and I even started dance classes with my husband," she reported, with eyes brimming with joy. The impact of the treatment on the participants' quality of life was evident. Many reported that they had resumed activities they had abandoned because of high blood pressure. Others highlighted the feeling of empowerment from actively participating in their healing process. During this period, we also worked on detailed documentation of the entire process. It was essential to create a rigorous scientific record that could be reviewed and replicated by other health professionals. Each successful case was carefully documented, with notes on individual variations and necessary adaptations. "What impresses me the most," commented Dr. Richard, a cardiologist who was following our work, "is how this approach manages to unite the best of both worlds, ancient Chinese wisdom and the precision of modern medicine." As positive results accumulated, we began to receive interest from other medical centers. We organized online workshops to share our methodology with health professionals from different regions of the country. The demand was so great that we had to create a waiting list. A particularly interesting aspect was observing how different communities adapted the formula to their local reality. In some regions, where certain ingredients were harder to find, we worked together with herbal medicine specialists to identify suitable alternatives that maintain the treatment's effectiveness. The true power of this discovery, I reflected during a lecture for cardiology residents, is not just in the formula itself, but in how it makes us rethink our approach to health. It's a reminder that effective solutions can be simple, natural, and accessible. At the end of that quarter, our data showed even more impressive results than the initial ones. In addition to consistent blood pressure reduction, we observed significant improvements in other aspects of participants' health: reduced stress levels, better sleep quality, and increased physical and mental disposition. After 6 months of intensive research, it was time to submit our results to a deeper scientific analysis. In partnership with the university's pharmacology department, we initiated a series of laboratory studies to understand exactly how each component of the formula interacted at the molecular level. The results were surprising, even to the most skeptical researchers. Dr. Andrew, a cellular biochemistry expert, presented his findings during a meeting that brought together the entire team. The bioactive compounds present in the formula work in perfect synergy. Garlic, for example, not only directly reduces blood pressure, but also potentiates the anti-inflammatory action of ginger. Through advanced microscopy, we observed how the different components affected endothelial cells, those that line blood vessels. The combination of ingredients promoted a true renewal of these cells, improving their function and elasticity. It was as if we were witnessing a vascular rejuvenation process. The most impressive thing, explained Dr. Carla, a molecular medicine specialist, is how the formula activates certain genes responsible for the production of nitric oxide, an important natural vasodilator in the body. It's as if we were rediscovering knowledge that ancient Chinese doctors already possessed, but now we can explain it scientifically. During this period, we continued to follow up with participants from the initial study. Mrs. Rachel, a 63-year-old accountant who had been participating since the beginning, brought her most recent exams. My cardiologist was impressed with the improvement in my inflammatory markers. He said my blood vessels look younger. To better document long-term effects, we implemented a continuous blood pressure monitoring system in a selected group of participants. The collected data revealed an interesting pattern. In addition to the reduction in average pressure values, there was a notable stabilization throughout the day, with fewer peaks and abrupt variations. Professor Williams, a renowned hypertension researcher from Oxford University, who was remotely following our work, sent his considerations. What you have discovered goes beyond blood pressure control. We are observing true preventive medicine in action, with benefits that extend to the entire cardiovascular system. In our clinic, we began to notice another interesting phenomenon. Patients who adopted the formula showed a significant reduction in side effects from their conventional medications. In many cases, it was possible to reduce dosages without compromising pressure control. It's as if the body was relearning to self-regulate, observed Dr. Patricia, an endocrinologist collaborating with our research. The formula not only treats symptoms, but seems to restore the body's natural balance. The impact of these results began to attract interest from the international scientific community. We were invited to present our data at important conferences, and several institutions expressed interest in conducting multi-center studies to validate our findings in different populations. Hannah, who continued her research in China, shared findings complementary to ours. We found evidence that the formula also positively influences the autonomic nervous system, explaining why many patients report improved sleep and stress reduction. To deepen this line of investigation, we initiated a collaboration with the neuroscience department. Using advanced brain imaging techniques, we began to map how the treatment affected brain areas responsible for blood pressure control and stress. It's fascinating to see how ancient knowledge can be validated and explained by modern science, I commented during a presentation for residents. But the most important thing is that we are managing to transform this knowledge into real benefits for our patients. Upon completing a year of research, we organized an international symposium to share all our findings. The auditorium was packed with health professionals, researchers, and most importantly, patients who had participated in the study. It was time to consolidate all the knowledge acquired and chart the next steps. What began as a discovery in Nai, ancient Chinese manuscripts, I began my presentation, has transformed into a silent revolution in how we treat hypertension. We are not just controlling numbers, we are transforming lives. The presented data spoke for itself. 92% of participants who completed 1 year of treatment maintained their blood pressure controlled, with significantly better values than before the study. Even more impressive, 75% had reduced or eliminated the need for conventional medications, always under careful medical supervision. During the symposium, Dr. Robert, now an enthusiast of the program, shared his experience as both a doctor and patient. As a health professional, I was always skeptical of alternative treatments, but the results are undeniable. My own journey with hypertension has completely changed after starting the treatment. One of the most emotional sessions was dedicated to testimonials from participants. Mrs. Mary, a 67-year-old visual artist, stood up to speak. Before, I lived in fear of having a serious problem at any moment. Today, I feel I have regained control of my health. I went back to painting, traveling, living fully. The impact of the program extended far beyond blood pressure control. We observed significant improvements in various aspects of participants' health, better sleep quality, reduced anxiety levels, increased physical and mental disposition. It was a truly holistic approach, treating not just the symptoms, but the person as a whole. The success of this program, explained Dr. Betty during her presentation on nutritional aspects, lies in how it empowers patients. They are not passive recipients of a treatment, but active participants in their healing journey. Based on our experience, we developed a detailed protocol for implementing the program in different health contexts. We created educational materials in accessible language, practical guides for health professionals, and an app for patient follow-up. The next step, I announced during the symposium's closing, is to bring this knowledge to where it is most needed. We are developing partnerships with primary healthcare units in rural communities, adapting the program to different social and economic realities. Hannah, who came specially from China for the event, brought an important perspective. This is not just a treatment for hypertension. It's an example of how traditional and modern medicine can work together for the benefit of humanity. The plans for the future are ambitious but promising. We established partnerships with universities in different countries to conduct multi-center studies. We initiated training programs for health professionals interested in implementing the protocol in their practices. The most gratifying thing, I shared in my final speech, is seeing how knowledge guarded for centuries in Chinese imperial archives is now transforming lives around the world. It's proof that true wisdom has no borders or time. Looking at the audience, I saw in the faces of those present the same enthusiasm I felt when I received that first message from Hannah a year ago. Each person there represented a transformation story, a life changed for the better. The symposium ended with a symbolic ceremony. Each participant received a ginger and garlic seedling to plant at home. It was our way of saying that knowledge, like plants, needs to be cultivated and shared to grow and benefit more people.